obviously the Department of Defense. Hurricane Dorian has been upgraded to a Category 5 storm with now 185 mile per hour sustained winds. And to put that in perspective, that's significantly stronger than Hurricane Andrew, which reached landfall at 165 miles per hour. It's significantly stronger than Hurricane Michael, which reached landfall at 160 mile per hour. Florida has had one hurricane in our history, the Labor Day hurricane of 1935, that reached at that level, and that was total destruction. So the strength of this storm cannot be underestimated. We will see tropical force winds within the next 48 hours. The National Hurricane Center reports Dorian could nearly stall over the Bahamas for more than 24 hours starting late tonight. And as many of you who've been following this forecast know, pretty much all computer models and all forecasters anticipate this turning north. We just don't know when exactly it's going to turn north. It could turn north. Obviously, we want to have that turn as quickly as possible to minimize the impacts on Florida. But if you look at the forecast, it absolutely could impact the coast and turn once it hits the coast. And so we've got to prepare for that eventuality. A hurricane watch has been issued for the east coast of Florida from north of Deerfield Beach to the Volusia-Brevard County line. A storm surge watch has also been issued for those same areas. A tropical storm warning is in effect for north of Deerfield to Sebastian Inlet. Bottom line is you're going to see these watches and warnings increase on the east coast of Florida. I think a lot of the counties are executing their evacuation plans. We think that that's prudent, and we support that. Palm Beach has mandatory evacuations today, starting at 1 p.m., zones A and B. Martin, evacuations 1 o'clock, zones A and B. St. Lucie is going to be starting them at 2 o'clock for everything east of US 1. Brevard has evacuations ongoing right now. Indian River, Volusia, St. John's are all implementing evacuation plans, and we expect Flagler, Duval, Nassau counties will be announcing their plans very shortly. And it's important for people to understand if you're in an evacuation zone and you're given an order to evacuate, please heed that call. This storm at this magnitude could really cause massive destruction, and do not put your life in jeopardy by staying behind when you have a chance to get out. And you still do have time to prepare yourself and to make sure that you and your family are safe. In terms of the evacuation routes, I've directed our Secretary Tebow to suspend tolls on the Florida Turnpike, Alligator Alley, Sawgrass Expressway, and the 528 Beach Line in Central Florida. And then after doing that, I received a request from Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings to suspend tolls for the East-West Beltway around Orlando, State Roads 417 and 429. I have granted that request. We are monitoring traffic, and the shoulders are ready to be open if need be. Right now, the traffic is relatively stable, and so use the normal lanes. If we end up having backup, then those shoulders will be open. But of course, you know, the shoulders bring with it some safety concerns as well. We're continuing to monitor the fuel situation. They're not currently fuel shortages, and I think you've seen a decline in demand for fuel in Miami-Dade based on the change of this cone. We don't have any bridge closures planned at this time. The Coast Guard makes decisions on that based on the wind speed, so the bridges will remain open for marine and vehicle traffic as long as they can safely be open, and obviously that situation is going to continue to be monitored. Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International, Palm Beach International, Orlando International airports are all currently open. They are monitoring the hurricanes and are going to keep their customers informed. Orlando Melbourne International will close on Monday evening. In terms of generators, ACA Secretary Mayhew has confirmed that every nursing home and assisted living facility in a coastal county along Florida's east coast from Palm Beach all the way to Nassau either has a generator on site or has plans to evacuate their residents. And so these duties have a duty to ensure the safety of their residents, and they'll be held accountable if they do not. So we are in a situation here where this thing is perilously close to the state. I think we should all hope and pray for the best, but we have to prepare that this could have major impacts on the state of Florida, and so that's what we're doing. Obviously we want to be ready to respond as soon as the storm does pass. So you still have time to prepare. You still have time to heed these evacuation orders, and please take this storm seriously. It's been a very somewhat frustrating experience, not knowing kind of a lot of uncertainty with this thing. But I think back to some of the major hurricanes in Florida in the beginning part of the 20th century. They didn't have any warning about anything. You just all of a sudden see clouds gather and you have a major hurricane. So we have a sense of what parts of Florida are threatened, and we want people to protect themselves and their families. Have a time to take a couple questions.
24 hours. We heard the director talk about making targeted decisions based upon scenarios being taken off the table. Are more resources moving to the East Coast now in light of that?
It'll be more targeted. We're also going to be likely doing probably more National Guard mobilization than we anticipated just for those counties, just because the storm is getting so significant in terms of its ferocity that we've got a plan for potential search and rescue along the East Coast if it comes to that. We anticipate if we were to get impacted directly, I think you're going to have a lot of flooding up and down the entire East Coast of Florida. So there's going to be assets needed. So those are those are being done. Those mobilizations are occurring right now.
Governor, are you concerned that a number of the newspapers today had headlines breathing a sigh of relief, and you now have to overcome that?
I'm concerned just simply because, when you're in that cone, if you're in that cone, you have the opportunity, and there's a good possibility that you could be impacted. Now, obviously, you do these things on percentages. You look at the trends. I think we did see a positive trend east, but then it tacked a little bit further west. So if you look at the National Hurricane Center's current track, I think it ends up within 30 miles of the coast of Florida. Well, guess what? You do just a touch of a bump one way or another, and you have a dramatic difference all of a sudden with the possibilities on the cone. And so I think what we've tried to do is, earlier in the week, we were very, factual about what we were putting out. We told people to be prepared. And then now, although we really hope for the best, we've been pretty consistent that the threat is still there, and so people should just understand that. And I think people did think this storm was going to gather strength. There's no doubt about it. But I think the consensus was that it'll reach a Cat 4. Well, this is a Cat 5 plus right now, and you would really have to go back to 1935 in the state of Florida when the Labor Day hurricane came through and just obliterated the Keys to find anything that had reached this level of danger. Yes.
Obviously, that there's a significant number of resources down at Mar-a-Lago, down in Palm Beach County. Do you know if that area has also been evacuated, or if anything particularly has been set up, just given all the money that we've already put into it?
I don't know anything specifically about Mar-a-Lago. I do know, obviously Palm Beach County's evacuation zones are more of the east of the Turnpike type things, and so you would get a lot of the Palm Beach Island and some of those other areas. I would say when you're talking about Palm Beach and Martin County, there's a lot of those coastal residents who aren't in Florida year-round, and I think there'd probably be a heavier population if this was in October rather than at the end of August, beginning of September. Nevertheless, there is going to be folks there who are going to need to evacuate. And then there have been, I know government resources have been moved around just more generally. I've spoken with the commanding officer for Navy Region Southeast about what they're doing to safeguard their ships. Some of those are going to remain in port, and they're on lockdown. That is kind of typical with their procedures, although I don't know if they've ever gone through a storm of this magnitude where that to be directly impacted. So there are assets being moved around. The Coast Guard was on the call with the president, And they made it very clear that they're going to be able to respond, immediately after this storm passes. And so that is obviously something that's very, very important to us. Because since we don't know the exact path, I mean, the amount of destruction could vary. But I definitely would anticipate. I mean, if we get hit with this, you're going to have a demand for search and rescue. I mean, that's just going to happen.
Regarding the bridge closure, especially in the very rare islands, I know you said there's no decisions yet on it, and the Coast Guard will make that. But how long can people on those islands expect to have if they're under evacuation orders to leave? Because once they're closed, they can't get out.
No, for sure. So, I mean, the National Hurricane Center puts out a lot of guidance. I would look at that. It varies based on where you are on the East Coast. But once you start to get into those tropical storm force winds, you end up in a situation where those bridges, may not be operable going forward. And so people just need to look at that, figure out where they are, look at the guidance that the NHC is putting out, and then make those decisions. Now, all these counties, are going to have shelters. And so those types of evacuations are one thing. If people are planning on evacuating in their cars and just getting out of Dodge, then obviously you got to build in the time to be able to do that. I did the tolls not only on the Turnpike and some of the places going north, but obviously going west, because I think if you're in Palm Beach and some of these counties, you may find that route to make more sense going to the West Coast. And given how the cone is moved, that probably would be a sound decision. So people just need to do that and heed the calls, but make sure that they're prepared. If you're in a place like Duval County or Nassau, obviously there's going to be some type of guidance issued, but you should just be prepared that if you've had to evacuate in the past, you may be called upon to do it again. And so make those preparations now so that you can do that as smooth as possible.
One more.
Are you guys looking at any other major highways or roads that you guys are considering suspending tolls on?
We basically suspended all of them that would be evacuation routes from these affected counties. Now, Mayor Demings asked us about the Orlando. That's fine. So if there's other maybe smaller toll roads that people have a request for, we'll obviously look at that. But we've got Western, Northern, Turnpike, and 75 that we've suspended. And obviously, as long as there's evacuation orders, that's going to be something that we're going to continue to do. So we're going to be monitoring this thing, and people should remain vigilant, and let's hope for the best, but let's just be prepared and take the steps necessary so we can protect everyone. Thank you.
My last call right now, you look at the route we all want to be on the left arm. My last call right now, you look at the route we all want to be on the left arm. Not low enough.
And then we'll go to our governors, DeSantis, Kemp, Master, and Cooper for updates on the state preparedness. And then Acting Administrator Dana will talk about the federal effort to deploy resources and be ready. So we'll go ahead and start with the National Hurricane Center. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mr. President, wanted to give you the latest update on Hurricane Dorian, and it's all been about communicating that threat to the Bahamas and also along the southeast coast of Florida. So I wanted to thank you for being able to get some of that information out, retweeting and tweeting out information to make sure citizens are prepared for this storm. I wanted to start with the NOAA satellites, just giving us an incredible amount of information. You look at the structure. The structure is just a textbook case of a very powerful hurricane, 180 miles an hour, a dangerous situation, and moving west at 7 miles an hour. So a very slow storm. You can see the eye right here, very powerful, moving to the Bahamas, bringing devastating winds. devastating rainfall. They can see in some cases up to 30 inches of rain, and some of the storm surge getting up over 20 foot. So very dangerous situation for them. And the sheer size of this storm really points to some of the impacts as we move along and get more information on the forecast. The hurricane hunters, I wanted to definitely take the time, the Air Force hurricane hunters and the NOAA hurricane hunters, we're all trying to get away from this storm. These are the men and women in the aircraft that are flying right through the middle of the storm out and running patterns for us to get the latest information. So these forecast wind updates on the intensity has been coming from the data that we're getting from them. So just want to thank them, true heroes, getting the information that we need to make the forecast. Speaking of this forecast, a couple things to note here. Really, we're looking at a forecast really slowing down. So we expect the storm to slow down with time, and some of these impacts stretching well away from the center. In this case, well over 100 miles from the center. So it's just not about the center. These impacts can stretch well outside that center as well. And the track's been really focused on a couple things with the track. We've had a high pressure system out in the Atlantic, and that's what's caused the system to continue to move west. However, a fast system, if we had a fast system, it would have continued to move in that direction. Because of this slowdown, the inherent characteristics of these storms, sometimes they just slow down, and it's allowing a small trough steered. These things are steered by things thousands of miles away. That is allowing it to slow down and eventually turn. The big question is, where is it going to make that turn? And that's why we have the forecast cone, such an important part of our forecast, because we really tell the general public not to necessarily just focus on that center line where that is. We tell them focus on the cone, because that's based on our average error over the last 5 years. So really the way to think about it is the center could be anywhere inside that cone. So that allows for solutions. So small changes could put this right along the coast. We can also see landfall moving northward. So that's why we really tell people to really pay attention and be ready with time. And we're going to be dealing with this hurricane all week. Look at the time frames here. This is 8 a.m. Monday. That's 8 a.m. Tuesday. Very devastating for the Bahamas since this is so slow. That's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we're going to see impacts in Florida, Georgia, and also the Carolinas with time. And the rainfall is something we want to talk about. We'll have storm surge impacts. We'll also have some rain in addition to the winds. And some of this rain, this is a message that we're keying with the general public. We see these values 6 to 8 inches and some places more, but little teeny changes in that track could bring some of these higher values onshore. Right now, we're thankful most of those are offshore, but a small change, small changes in that forecast. It could be a little wobble that causes that change, could bring some of these high values onshore. So we're keeping everybody ready. We're doing the interviews. We're talking to the emergency managers. I just can't explain what a tight relationship, close relationship NOAA has and the Weather Service with the FEMA, the state emergency managers, the governors, and also the local county and parish emergency managers out there. They're our partners, and we're all in this together. So that concludes my briefing, Mr. President.
Could I just ask you, 2 days ago, we were given a really comprehensive briefing, and they seemed to think almost every prediction was that it was going to go right through Florida and into the Gulf, actually right across Florida. Does that not have a chance of happening now, or what do you think? I mean, everything seems now it goes up north. What do you think the chances that it goes directly straight as the original predictions were?
Yeah, this well inside this cone. It just kind of gets the variability in that forecast track. And what's happened with time, once it slowed down, the forecast had to nudge to the north because now it has that influence with that trough. Teeny changes can make a big difference in the eventual movement of these storms. Literally thousands of parameters that we're trying to measure and put into the computer models to be able to get these tracks. So a small wobble, a small change can cause that forecast track to nudge a little bit. That's why there's so much uncertainty. And we spend a lot of time talking about the actual cone because, you look at the last 5 years and that's the forecast error possible with that track. So we try to communicate these uncertainties and it does happen, especially when you're measuring thousands of parameters, trying to get that into the models, you can have these small changes.
How certain are you that it'll go north?
Every single computer model that we have is pulling this to the north. But the big question we have is about where that center is going to go. And that's why we're really trying to communicate the edge of that cone. That landfall literally could be right on the coast, anywhere in Florida, and even up the Carolinas. We could see a landfall too soon where you can have some damage right along the coast. But we're trying to communicate, even if it's offshore, look at the size. I mean, remember the NOAA satellite, how big the storm is. Even if it's offshore, that can bring some devastating impacts even on the coast. We're trying to communicate that size and really try to focus people on this large system and not just the center.
Great job. Thank you very much. Kevin.
Mr. President, we are joined today, as you mentioned, by governors from Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. We begin first with Governor DeSantis from the state of Florida. Sir.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Mr. President, for all you've done for Florida. Obviously, you've done a lot for the Michael aftermath, which those folks are still rebuilding. Now we have Dorian, and
back to the National Hurricane Center. This is Ken Graham in our operations area. The official clock says it's 11 o'clock. We're looking at the latest information on Hurricane Dorian, and there's a lot to talk about here. So just leaving this image in the background, it looks like the eyewall starting to reach the Bahamas already. So it's already starting to see some reports of a lot of wind, and it's not going to be moving very fast at all, and eventually moving over to Grand Bahama and even moving slower. Some of the latest information that we have right now, we're about 205 miles east of West Palm Beach. Winds 180 miles an hour. So right now, one of the strongest storms in history for this region. So that's a very important statistic to talk about the power of this storm. Moving west at 6 miles an hour, a little slower than before. Pressure down to 913 millibars. So very powerful. We got the NOAA hurricane hunters out there now going back and forth. Air Force working it. The hurricane hunters, just real heroes, giving the data that we need to keep you all posted on the latest information. So some of the changes as well. We got the brand new graphic literally just updated minutes ago. We got a couple new things to talk about. A hurricane watch, and just now got it a little bit ago, so it is out. Check our website, hurricanes.gov, to get the latest information on all these tracks. The hurricane watch has been issued on the Florida coast north of Deerfield Beach to the Volusia-Brevard County line. So we really could start seeing the impacts of the potential for some hurricane force winds. And also the storm surge watch has been issued north of Deerfield Beach to the Volusia-Brevard line as well. And some of the values that we're looking at, Volusia-Brevard County line to Jupiter Inlet, some of these areas could get 4 to 7 feet of storm surge. So we're going to keep this updated as quick as we can. The information is changing by the minute on this storm as we really continue to keep an eye on it. Let's go over the latest track. Not a whole lot of change in the track, other than you can see how close we are to the Florida coastline there, and that's really important because we keep hearing people talking about is it on the coast or off the coast. The reality is it's in the cone. This whole area is absolutely in the cone. So any one of these areas, if you start stretching from this watch area up the entire Florida coast, even into Georgia and the Carolinas, you know, you could probably see impacts. You're going to see impacts. I mean, we're really confident that the impacts are going to occur, but you can also see the center. So we got to remember that center could be in any one of these areas, and that means you could have landfall of a major hurricane. You can have it go right up the coast. You can have it go inland as well. So preparation is everything in this case, to really keep an eye on this. And please remember, such an important point that we make all the time. It's so important to realize it's not a point. We're not talking about a point. Look at the tropical storm force winds, and that's the hurricane force winds. Notice something? Yeah, the wind field is getting larger. So that's the part of the problem as we start slowing down, stalling, a very devastating situation for the Bahamas. So we're keeping an eye on it. We'll keep you posted. This is the National Hurricane Center. Ken Graham, keeping you updated with the latest. Ken Graham back at the National Hurricane Center. We are live in our operations area with the latest updates on Hurricane Dorian. We've had a lot of changes, pieces of paper flying all over the place. Let's try to cover some of this. One of them is the strength of the storm. Well, let's look on satellite. I mean, you just can't get more textbook than this. A very strong eye, and it's interesting, we still have the hurricane hunters flying through in patterns to get us the latest information, and the latest is, got it up on the board here, 180 miles an hour, slowed down a little bit, west at 6 miles an hour, but listen to this pressure, 913 millibars at the last advisory, and the lower the number, really the lower the pressure, that means it's an incredibly strong storm, and the plane out there now actually found lower pressure, so we're really keeping an eye on this. Very strong storm. Where is it right now? Well, think about the islands of the Bahamas. I mean, the eye wall just approaching the islands here. This is Grand Bahama right over here, Dennis. I mean, just absolutely devastating. So it's not just right now, 6 miles an hour. I mean, some place is going to see an eye wall and be in the eye for a long period of time. So let's look at that forecast with time here. One thing to note, there's lots to note on here, but let's start with the wind field. One thing that's happening is we are noticing that the wind field is expanding. It's getting stronger. The wind field is expanding, which is not a good combination at all. And remember, we've been drawing these circles with time. You know, we're well over 100 miles now. Look at the size of the tropical storm force winds. But look how this expanded too. The actual hurricane force winds are now starting to extend further out from the center. So expanding that wind field. And if you take this forward, you can see how Florida will experience some of these winds with time, and that's what we're trying to focus on, is this cone, not just the center part of this. So what happens? Let's look at the timing here. So we have a major hurricane, 180 miles an hour. This right here, 8 a.m. Monday. This is 8 a.m. Tuesday. Feeling the effects now, still going to feel the effects into Tuesday morning. Absolutely life-threatening, devastating information that we have concerning the Bahamas, because if you look at this, they're going to experience the rainfall. It could be 15 to 20, up to 30 inches of rain on these islands of the Bahamas. The storm surge, getting the latest values on the storm surge that we have, calculations 18 to 23 feet, and you can have waves on top of that. And the other part, all that water is a leading cause of fatalities in these storms. On top of that, the major hurricane force winds. So absolutely devastating, life-threatening situation in the Bahamas. So very slow movement here. And if you notice, let's move northward. Let's look at the timing. So we already talked about 8 a.m. Tuesday. There's 8 a.m. Wednesday, Thursday, and then into Friday. We're going to be dealing with this storm the entire week as it continues to move north. Here's what we got to talk about. We got some new updates in the watches and warnings. So let's look at this cone. The cone is so important, and we keep doing these interviews. We keep doing information like this, talking about it. It is so important not just to concentrate on this track. We keep seeing a lot of posts about, well, it's offshore. Well, you know, it looks like it's not coming here. We got to pay attention to this cone. This cone includes the coastline of Florida, and if you keep going, the coastline portions of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina as well. That means, you look historically, the last 5 years of our era, this center could be anywhere in that cone. Okay, so solutions include our current track, maybe to the right, but we keep nudging a little bit to the left with each advisory. That also includes the center that could make the landfall and move up the coast. It also includes this major hurricane also making landfall and traveling north inland. So big time effects. That's hurricane force winds, that storm surge, and we've updated. We got the latest information right here, Dennis. I'm going to read that off from the board to make sure that I get it right, because it's all new. Hurricane, we got a hurricane watch and a storm surge watch. That means hurricane force winds, storm surge could occur within 48 hours. We have it from north of Deerfield Beach to the Volusia-Brevard County line. I just want to make sure I get it right. And also, you've looked at this around Lake Okeechobee as well. We got the watch, tropical storm watch as well for Lake Okeechobee. So that's an update on the watches and warnings. So we got to be prepared. I mean, the center could still go right up the coast, could be inland a little bit, and we do have some brand new information. This is the storm surge stuff that just came out. We made a graphic to kind of look at that. You know, we have that watch out that some of these water start coming up in 48 hours. So this is West Palm Beach down here, Dennis, and if you go northward up to Titusville, some of these areas, not every area gets it, right? Not every place will get it, but in this watch area, we could see 4 to 7 foot of storm surge in some of these areas. And historically speaking, 50% of the fatalities in tropical systems comes from the storm surge. So we got to be careful. We got to be watching these values and take steps to listen to the local officials. We're working very close with them to give them maps like this, to give them that information, and working with them, and they'll be letting you know what the safest thing to do. So listen to those local officials. It can definitely save your life. So critical situation. And Dennis, I want to go to the rain real quick because it's not just the values here, but I want to cover the uncertainty. So you look, a lot of the information that I'm seeing that people are talking about, there's the coast of Florida. People are saying, well, most of the rain's offshore, but be careful with that. Watch this. So if we move the track a little to the left, these lines, they move with it. Most of the rain occurs right along that track and just to the right. So if we move that track a little bit, those large values, 6 to 10 inches, also move with it, and that could be dangerous. There's the Bahamas we're talking about, that slow movement, even slowing down to 1 mile an hour for a period of time. It's awful. 15 to 20 plus inches of rain, and even 30 inches in some of those areas. So, Dennis, that's the latest information that I have, looking around at the graphics to make sure I covered it all. Let's go talk to Eric real quick. It's all about getting information out. This is one way that we do it with these Facebook Lives. We have our website, hurricanes.gov. Use it. It gets all the latest information. And the other thing that's really changed over time, just the last 4 or 5 years, it's social media. So Eric, you're our guru with the social media. How has that impacted our ability to get information out?
It's really impacted it significantly. We're able just at a touch of a button to get information out to millions of people immediately. We've been sending out messages constantly urging people to avoid the catastrophic storm surge, 18 to 23 feet. This is an extremely life-threatening situation, and we're trying to emphasize the message as we can on social media.
Yeah, so important. So different ways to get information. We've never been able to get information right to somebody's pocket on their phones, but remember, the best way to get information is probably multiple ways to get information, because you start losing cell phone towers, you start losing your power. Make sure you have multiple ways to get information, and sometimes, I'm a ham radio operator. It gets back to that sometimes in these situations. So communication is everything. Eric, I can also see over your shoulder, I see the aircraft going through the center.
We just got the latest radar showing very deep. This is a very strong, intense hurricane, and NOAA is flying through there and finding that the pressure keeps falling.
So the data we get from the hurricane hunters, both the Air Force hurricane hunters, and we got the P3 NOAA hurricane hunters out there, the men and women in those planes risking their lives to get us the information that we need to keep you posted on this forecast. I think it's the latest information. You can already tell, you can feel it. It's an evolving situation here. We need you to be safe out there. Pay attention to the latest forecast. It could be life and death. This has been Ken Graham right here at the National Hurricane Center.